Hello everyone, and welcome to Mr. B's short English lesson. Today we talk about relative clauses and relative pronouns. We need relative clauses when we want to define a noun and when we want to make clear who or what we are talking about. So here is an example. I am looking for a shop. This is very unclear because what kind of shop are you looking for? Are you looking for a clothes shop, for a sports shop, are you looking for food? I don't know. So you need to define the noun shop here, and you do that with a relative clause. And the relative clause here is which sells clothes. So this is the relative clause, and it defines the noun shop, and which is the relative pronoun. There are 5 different relative pronouns and 5 different things you use them for. Better said, there are 4, but let's have a look at it. We have who, and you use who when you talk about people or when you want to define a person. We use which when you talk about things or animals, and we use that when we talk about people, things or animals. So you can use that instead of who or instead of which. Where is used when you talk about places, and whose is used when you talk about things that belong to someone, so it's about possession and ownership. Let's look at some examples here. So who and that is used for people, and this is the woman who stole my keys. So you want to define the woman. The woman is a person. Then you need who and a relative clause to make it clear who this person is. And you can also say this is the woman that stole my keys. Which is used for things and animals. So do you know a restaurant? The restaurant is not clear. You need to define it. You use the relative pronoun which and the relative clause which has good burgers. And you can also use that as a relative clause. You use where for places. So do you know a place where we can rest? The where defines the place further, and you can make a sentence with a relative clause here. And lastly, whose. This is the family whose dog is lost. So here it's a little bit more difficult. You have the dog. The dog belongs to the family, so this shows possession. And after whose, there is always a noun that belongs to something in the main clause earlier. And whose is the relative pronoun in this relative clause. There is one more thing we have to talk about, and that's called the contact clause. A contact clause is a relative clause, but there is no relative pronoun. And you only can do this in a certain case. I'm going to show you. It's best to have a job that you enjoy. And this is a contact clause, so you can say it's best to have a job you enjoy. So you don't need the relative pronoun here. When can you make a sentence without the relative pronoun? There are 2 different parts of the sentence the relative clause and the relative pronoun can take. The relative pronoun can be the subject or the object of the relative clause. When it's the subject, so when the relative pronoun is the subject of the relative clause, then it is in front of the verb, and then it is necessary, and you can't make the sentence without the relative pronoun. It has to be there. For example, they bought a house that was too expensive for them, And as you can see, was is the verb, and in front of the verb is the relative pronoun, and so this is the subject, and you have to use it in this relative clause. When the relative pronoun is the object of the relative clause, then it is not necessary and you can make a sentence without the relative pronoun. It is in front of a noun or a pronoun then, and the noun or the pronoun is the subject. So let's look at this sentence. This is the girl who I met at the party. Met is the verb, and as you know, in front of the verb is the subject. So this pronoun I is the subject here, and the who is the object. And when the relative pronoun is the object, you don't have to use it. So you kind of make a sentence like, this is the girl I met at the party, without a relative pronoun. So much for relative clauses and relative pronouns. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.